Michigan life.
All he and his 3 shipmates could do was huddle and hang on. It was pitch black. The winds were whipping, waves churning. Each time the frigid water hit them, it pierced like a knife. The torment lasted 15 hours. Here we are, nearly 6 decades later. Only one person is left who was there, who can accurately tell the tale. Frank Mays remembers it with clarity. It's hard to see the exact location where it happened from here. Water's Edge is the closest he's been to it in decades.
I haven't been out here in a long time, many years.
As Frank Mays wanders closer, his mind also wanders.
I saw it with my own eyes.
Back to those tragic events.
A lot of the bodies they picked up were floating.
From that Tuesday night.
That's burned in my mind, and that'll never go away.
In 1958.
About in this direction, about 33 miles. Just south of Beaver Island.
The SS Carl D. Bradley was considered the Queen of the Lakes.
It was built in 1927.
At 639 feet long, she was the largest and fastest out there.
Designed to carry limestone on the Great Lakes from the calcite plant near Rogers City to steel mills and different cement plants.
Frank was a deck watch.
It was a privilege to work on her.
On November 18th, 1958, the Bradley was scheduled to travel from Gary, Indiana to Manitowoc, Wisconsin, where she would undergo repairs.
Get a new cargo hold put in, liners put on stem to stern to strengthen her up.
Instead, in a move of pure greed,
I finished my watch at 8 o'clock.
Knowing the ship needed service.
So I get out on deck and I walk and I didn't see the coastline. All I saw was water all around the whole ship.
The owner of the Bradley, U.S. Steel, ordered her back to Rogers City for one more load. As she reached northern Lake Michigan, the waves began to swell.
From the southwest are the gale winds building up.
They got bigger and bigger.
You could see the ship twist and turned and bend. It to me was normal. And then you'd hear a ping. Another rivet popped, and another ping.
The storm battering the Bradley.
And all of a sudden there was a big slam and a big bang, and that ship started to shake.
Frank and his crewmates grabbed their life jackets.
We were in trouble. Elmer Fleming, he was on the radio phone with his Mayday message. And I can remember him saying, Mayday, 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 this is a Carl D. Bradley. We're 12 miles southwest of Gull Island. We're breaking into and sinking. Anyone in the area come to our aid. From port to starboard, she just tore right apart. We were going down.
Frank untied one of the life rafts and climbed aboard.
And when this wave come along and hit us and tipped us to port, I went with the life raft into the water, got knocked off the life raft.
Fighting freezing water. And 40-footers.
When I come up to the surface, I went like this to swim, and my arm hit the life raft. Then I climbed aboard.
He started rescuing his shipmates. Frank found Elmer Fleming and helped him aft.
The second one is Gary Strelitz. We got him aboard. The next man was Dennis Meredith. We got him aboard.
Meantime, the Bradley's bow section sank.
The stern is still floating.
Not for long.
And then it tipped, propeller tipped, wheel up like this, and started to go down. There was an implosion and a big red ball of flame and black smoke until it went underwater and disappeared, and everything was black.
The Carl D. Bradley was gone. Their battle for survival had begun. As the wind and waves rocked the raft,
Maybe it picked up our Mayday.
a light appeared in the distance.
The Christian Satori is on its way.
Elmer ignited 3 flares.
And we seen the Satori coming right at us.
It would turn, then disappear.
She never saw us. and then we were at the mercy of the sea.
As the storm intensified,
The life raft has slats,
survival
nothing to hang on to but stick your finger down into these bores.
seemed impossible.
And get in this fetal position and huddle up.
The torment continued,
And just shake and tremble and shake.
and hope dwindled. A massive wave flipped the raft.
We didn't have much strength now.
Dennis Meredith couldn't get back on.
His head was in the water, his face down. So I picked him up by the hair and I looked at him. His eyes were open, but they were white. Gary and I looked at each other and we just opened our legs up and released him. And his body was never recovered.
3 men remained.
We couldn't move our arms and legs.
Death seemed imminent.
Our urine was black because we were condensing internally and our organs were shutting down.
Gary Sturzlecki succumbed to the elements
You could see it like foaming it by his mouth and that.
and the ordeal.
And Elmer and I couldn't move to stop him. He actually crawled off the raft and started to swim away.
All they could do was watch their friend disappear. Daylight broke.
We had a coating of ice on it.
Frank and Elmer survived, but were barely alive.
And he said, I see something on the horizon, and that was a sundew.
A Coast Guard cutter found them floating near Gull Island.
I remember going out in the stretcher, I could see these bodies laying out there.
They'd both recover in a Charlevoix hospital. All these years later, Frank Mays can only gaze
It's good to be here, to see this here again.
while thinking about being the only one.
In 1969, the other person, Elmer Fleming, passed away, so that leaves me as a sole survivor.
And about his kids who were lost.
The 15 that are out there must have drifted away from the ship.
Every November 18th, he honors them
Actually is a cemetery.
and remembers the shipwreck he survived
She's lying 380 feet.
in a way only he can appreciate.
And that's exactly what I do at 5:30. I have a bourbon and soda, and I look north, and I toast the Bradley.
Of the 33 sailors who died in the Bradley, 2 of them were Frank's cousins. The tragedy left behind 25 widows and 54 fatherless children. This story picks up from here on our website. You can learn how and why U.S. Steel commissioned a secret dive down to the Bradley the summer after it sank. Frank was eventually fired by U.S. Steel for saying he saw the Bradley snap in half. Head to WZZM13.com right now for the web-exclusive content, and you can just click on this story.
I do believe it was like the next day, photographers coming into the house and taking pictures.
All these cameras flashing.
It's been 58 years,
This is Mom, and then Ron was the oldest.
but it still feels like yesterday
He took it hard.
for Catherine Kropchak
There's me.
and Rose McCrumb. They are 2 siblings from a family of 6, reminiscing
Yeah, you're right.
over an old photo in This of Life magazine.
Been so long.
A detailed spread about the tragedy,
Goodness.
the aftermath,
It was very, very tough.
and their father,
This one's Dad.
Joseph Kropchak, one of 33 sailors who lost their lives aboard the SS Carl D. Bradley.
You saw your mother crying, and you're crying.
Rose was just 7 when it happened.
And I remember we were messing with him, just saying, don't go, you know, hanging on to his shirts and stuff. And he basically walked out the door, and
That was the last time we saw him.
November 18th, 1958.
The Carl Bradley took hundreds and hundreds of loads of stone from Rogers City to Chicago in the 30-year period that it sailed.
She was a 639-foot freighter, unknowingly on her final voyage.
It had almost reached Manitowoc, where it was going to be laid up for winter repairs, when it received a radio call from headquarters in Rogers City indicating that they wanted to work in one last delivery.
The company's greed led to disaster.
There was a big storm brewing, But of course, the Carl Bradley had weathered many storms, and the captain, Roland Bryant, decided to go for it. The storm was tremendous. The waves were in the neighborhood of 30, 40 foot high. And there was a snap. Ship broke in half. Started to go down. 35 men had but a few minutes to try to get to the lifeboats and the life rafts.
4 men made it into a lifeboat. By morning, 2 of them had died. Only Frank Mays and first mate Elmer Fleming survived.
They were taken ashore more dead than alive.
Soon after the sinking, 33 families sued U.S. Steel, the owner of the Bradley, triggering an alleged cover-up.
Frank Mays told his company, U.S. Steel, he told the media that he saw the ship crack in half. He saw sparks coming out of the crack. The company didn't believe him. In fact, about a month later, they didn't have work for him anymore. He was fired.
U.S. Steel hired a firm to locate and survey the wreck. It reported finding the hull in one piece. Recent dives confirm there is a massive tear in the Bradley, just as survivor Frank Mays had reported.
If the ship had been confirmed to be in 2 pieces, U.S. Steel would be liable for not maintaining the ship properly. But with no proof in 1958 that the ship did break in half, this was an act of God.
Victims' families did receive some settlement,
But not nearly what they requested and not nearly what they would have gotten had it been proven that the ship was in 2 pieces.
nearly 6 decades later.
And there it is today, 375 feet beneath Lake Michigan, cracked about midships in the cargo hold, both ends intact, but you can see, based on the footage, that this just went down like a stone.
Many of the sailors lost on the Bradley were from the small town of Rogers City, Michigan,
It was tough.
including Joseph Krofchek, who left behind a wife and 6 children, the youngest just 3 months old.
There were other kids that lost their fathers too. We just had the most in the family and got the most recognition.
The Krofchek siblings were recently taken out to the location on Lake Michigan where the Bradley went down.
We put a wreath in the water to commemorate him. The flowers were from my mother's garden. It was not really closure, but it was our goodbye to him.
A profound message still resonates today when discussing the Bradley, forcing this tragedy to never be forgotten.
It's a story of a company that wanted to make that last buck before the season was over. A company that risked the lives of their 33 crew members. People are much more important than making a buck. By remembering the Bradley, we remember that lesson.